Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Dana Buckler Show. My name is Dana, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Jason Waters. Jason, how are you, buddy?
I am COVID-free.
How are you feeling? I was about to say, how are you feeling?
I feel much better today.
Okay, we're recording this on January 2nd, 2023. The movie's been out for more than 2 weeks, Avatar, The Way of Water. And this was an episode that we had planned.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so basically, we're not going to spend too much time on this, everybody, because I know you're curious to hear our thoughts on this movie. But this is the timetable. Okay, so this is the timetable of how this was supposed to happen.
We've been looking forward to this for
we've been talking about it.
14 years.
Yeah, we've definitely been talking about it. So I've got a calendar here in front of me.
Okay.
I just want to go over the timetable when we were supposed to do this. Okay, so Avatar: The Way of Water was scheduled for its worldwide release on Friday, December 16th. Now,
I bought tickets, I want to say early November for this on the 15th, a Thursday showing.
They do the Thursday previews.
Yes.
Okay. Now, because of my work schedule, seeing the movie on the 15th with you, it just wasn't. It was a no-go.
Yep.
So I bought tickets to see it on Sunday, December 18th, with us planning to record our review of the movie
next
on
day.
Monday, December 19th.
And I was going to see it at least one more time Saturday or Sunday that weekend.
So along comes, I think you told me you were COVID positive the day before the 15th.
It was
Wednesday the 14th.
We came back from Arizona for Sally's 40th birthday trip. And the next day on that Wednesday, getting in bed, and all of a sudden my feet feel like they're on fire. And I went, I've never felt anything like that. And I'd never tested positive for COVID ever before. I've had 4 people in my household COVID positive that I'm taking care of, and I don't test positive for it. I've gotten the vaccine, the boosters, like I'm good to go. The next morning I woke up and took a test, and just immediately it was positive. And I went.
Now, obviously, when you sent me a picture of your COVID positive test, and I was like, well, fuck. Now, obviously, the Avatar review didn't matter. My first question was, how are you feeling?
My family's first question is, I can't believe you guys are pregnant again. And I went, no, that's a COVID test.
So I'm just like, okay, well, I don't know how long with whatever strain of COVID you have. I don't know how long you're going to be symptomatic. So I'm, your health is number one.
Sure.
But number 2, obviously, was keep me updated on when you're going to see this movie. There's no timetable. There's no rush. I'm figuring if you test it positive on the 14th, at the very latest, 5 days later, on the 18th, you would be good to go. And we're going to see the movie together. We're going to go see it in IMAX together.
Yep.
Well, you kept testing positive each day.
Damn virus.
You reminded me that our local Regal, which has an IMAX, had a 9 a.m. showing on Friday the 16th.
Yep.
And I just, I'm going to go see it. So I went and saw it Friday the 16th, 9 a.m. Half an hour of trailers.
Yeah. It was packed with those.
I looked at my watch.
I expect 20 minutes tops.
When the 20th Century logo came on screen, I looked at my watch and it was 9:31 for a 9 a.m. showing. I was like, So interestingly enough, the 2 other times that I went to go see the movie, I took that time factor into play. So everyone's looking at me like, oh, look at this guy showing up late. I'm coming in right at the end of, I think it was Ant-Man was the last trailer.
Well, I remember waiting. I was waiting for you to text me like, hey, just got out. And it was like 12 o'clock, 12:30, like 1:05. I'm like, Dana, what the fuck? What are you doing?
So tell me again, looking at the timetable, when did you actually see the movie the first time?
I saw it on the 24th.
Okay, so you saw
Christmas Eve.
You saw it on Christmas Eve. All right.
Yeah.
So you see it on the 24th. By the way, I just want to let you know, like I text him some broad thoughts I had on the movie, some instant out of the theater reactions, but we have not shared our thoughts on the movie yet.
We haven't talked about it.
But so obviously you're good to go on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
My place of work is closed the 25th, the 26th, 27th. We are recording on December 26th. It is going to happen.
Yes,
all right?
Absolutely.
By this point,
guaranteed nothing is, that can't stop me now, just playing in the background.
I've seen the movie 3 times by this point. Okay? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk about this film. I go to a Christmas get together on Christmas Eve or on Christmas Day. It is literally like 7 o'clock, and we know our bodies well enough to know. And I just said, I'm getting sick. I was like, oh no. And I looked at everybody there. I said, I'm sorry, guys. I got to go. I'm starting to feel a little under the weather. I woke up Monday morning, and I was pretty sure I had COVID because everybody else did. And, I didn't test. I tested negative the few times I took the at-home tests. And I felt really like lousy all day Monday, all day Tuesday. And these were, not only were we going to record our episode on this, but I was going to go see Babylon. I was going to go see the new Puss in Boots movie because everyone's telling me that movie's fantastic. And then, so I'm texting you like, hey man, listen,
we got to put it off again.
We're going to have to push it back another week.
Which I felt, I felt actually kind of good. I was like, oh, thank God, because I pushed it off for 2 weeks in a row. And I'm like, all right, finally. He's sick again. Yes.
So
not just me.
That Wednesday, I felt perfectly back to normal.
Yeah.
So here we are. All right. Avatar: The Way of Water. James Cameron's 8th movie. I don't count Piranha 2: The Spawning as one of his films. So he literally was on set for 2 days before they fired him. So this is his 8th movie in nearly 40 years. Every single James Cameron movie for me has always been an event.
Yes.
I mean, looking at the timetable, 84 Terminator, 86 Aliens, 89 The Abyss, 91 Terminator 2, 94 True Lies, 97 Titanic, 12-year gap, Avatar 2009, and then 2022 Avatar: The Way of Water. But here's the interesting thing, okay? Before we give our initial thoughts on the movie, is I like Avatar, the original one. But if I was forced to rank my favorite James Cameron movies,
that'd be tough.
That would be number 7. That was 7 of the 7 movies he made by that time. And by the way, a last place James Cameron movie is still 99% better than anything that's ever come out.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that just speaks to how much I just, I'm just a fan of his work. I'm a fan of what he does. He's a one-of-a-kind filmmaker.
Yes.
But I'll be the first to admit that when I saw the original Avatar in 2009, and I saw the IMAX 3D, the way it was supposed to be, seen, for a movie that had a 2-hour and 40-minute runtime, I thought there were portions of that movie that really kind of dragged a little bit. Mm-hmm. Even the first time I was watching it. I saw it a couple times in the theater and then never really had like that yearning to revisit the movie. So what was your thoughts on the original Avatar?
So I saw the original in the theater, same thing, IMAX 3D. I saw the IMAX 3D once, and then I saw it, again, like this one, it was very difficult to find it not in 3D. So I saw it twice in 3D in the theater, and I've probably seen it, maybe 10 times since then. Because I rewatch all my movies at least once a year. I was not a fan of the original because, like I've said it before, and I'm sure multiple people have, to me, it was Dances with Wolves.
And you've said this on the podcast before.
Space. Yeah. What he did in that original movie, the way he revolutionized the way films are made and the way CGI is, he set the bar at that point for CGI. And I absolutely respect that. The guy is a freaking wizard when it comes to what he does. But it was a 6.5, 7 out of 10 for me.
It was a 5 out of 10 for me on the James Cameron scale.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's a tough one.
So, and there's something that I want to constantly kind of be reminding myself and the listeners and everyone is that this is a CGI movie that involves real actors. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm talking broadly about both Avatar films. This is not a situation where it's animated nonsense like in whatever Marvel or DC film, okay?
Right.
Your Steppenwolfs or your whatever. Like it's not even motion capture. James Cameron prefers we call it performance capture.
Performance capture, I like that.
So it's kind of like a hybrid in the sense that yes, they're digitally altered, but those are real actors portraying all of the characters. And to me, that, again, we see that a little bit. We saw that a little bit in the Planet of the Apes movies. Yeah, so
Andy Serkis.
But, like, I knew they were going to make an Avatar movie, but, like, I remember my excitement for the Top Gun movie when that that first trailer dropped in 2019, I was like, I can't wait to see this.
I just watched that yesterday.
And I am
doing the dishes and
it's
cooking.
so good.
I just watched
It's so good. And by the time this episode, shortly after this episode comes out, we're going to be releasing our end of the year special, where I'm sure that movie will come up.
Yes, absolutely.
But throughout this 13-year gestation period that is the development and production of Avatar: The Way of Water, there was no anticipation for me. There was like, all right, well, if he ever makes this, he makes it.
Right.
I'm sure I'll see it. Yeah, I've never missed a James Cameron movie before. I'm not going to start now.
Well, and you start thinking too, he's putting up his own money on this.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, how far down the rabbit hole is he going to go before he just goes, you know what? Nobody wants to watch this. It's all superhero movies now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to compete in this market.
Yeah, and that's a big question mark is because the world we live in now is, I don't want to.
If you can't make $1 billion, why make it?
Why make it?
Or you spend your $200,000 making it, and we'll pony up a little bit. But
so when the first trailer dropped, I think it was I think it came out with the Doctor Strange movie. I think the first teaser trailer dropped, and that thing dropped on YouTube. A couple days later, I remember watching it, and the first time I watched the trailer for The Way of Water, it's on my phone. I'm like watching on YouTube and on my phone. I'm like, admittedly, that trailer wasn't very exciting. It was visually stunning. It was a teaser. And then the main trailers come out, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. All right, cool. I'm going to see it. And then the runtime gets announced. 3 hours and 10 minutes long. Half an hour longer than the original. And remember, going back to my initial gripes with the original film was that part of that dragged a little bit. Didn't matter. I was going to see the movie. So when I text you after seeing the movie the Friday it came out, I don't have the text in front of me, but I said something to the words of, I have never left a theater speechless before. Yes. So initial thoughts on Avatar: The Way of Water is, for me, as it was, and this held true the two other times I saw it, visually the most incredible movie I've ever seen in my life, visually speaking. Oh,
yeah. I would definitely agree
visually
with that.
speaking. And seeing it a second and a third time, knowing where the story's going, the story beats and all that stuff, I really got to, I don't want to say get critical, but really got to look at everything that was going on in every shot. And everything is perfect in that movie. The attention to detail, which we've come to completely expect from James Cameron, is there. So I have no idea what you thought about this movie. All I know is you weren't a fan of the first one. So Jason Waters, after 2.5 weeks of me waiting, because we have not discussed how we feel about this film.
Nope.
How did you like Avatar: The Way of Water?
So, much like you, I thought that the way it was presented was it was visually stunning. I absolutely hate 3D movies because you always lose the background in them. And I didn't like that about this, is that I kept looking at the characters front and center. The background was blurred in, I would say, 70 to 80% of the shots, which I'm never a fan of. I thought what James Cameron did to push filmmaking forward in this movie was Herculean. Yeah. I think this movie alone could stand as his benchmark, as film's benchmark of what a movie should be like.
So there's certain things that I just want to keep bringing up, and I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but I don't think I even truly appreciated this movie. And look, I'm just going to say it. Like, I loved this movie. Like, I loved it. But after I saw the film, I didn't want to do any of these behind the scenes featurettes until I actually saw the movie.
Right.
I didn't want to see how the sausage was made. You know, I wanted to just embrace the movie. And it didn't even occur to me that most of the underwater, stuff that is in this film was really filmed underwater. Like all those actors were really underwater in motion capture suits because it was like, we're not going to animate someone underwater. We're going to put the actors in there.
Oh, that's crazy.
And like, to me, that is we live in a world where you could just very easily CGI them underwater, but Cameron put them underwater.
Yeah.
And it just shows. It just, again.
All right. So to go back to my original point though, I am not a fan of this film.
Really?
Okay,
because you were going on just a second ago about, on a visual level.
On a visual, on a technical, on an overall level, the man deserves every award. I mean, like, if they were to give him Best Picture of the Year this year, I wouldn't complain.
Right.
Because of what he did in the industry. It is unparalleled. He is a pioneer, and he deserves every accolade we could give him. However, for me, where it fell short was the story.
Okay.
I was there for the ride no matter what, and I did my best on the first viewing to not criticize it because it's like eye candy. You might as well be watching, the best thing that you could imagine on the screen, and that's what it was. The story just lags, and what I kept thinking was, am I going to watch this yearly like I watch Avatar? Am I going to look at this 5 years from now and go, I really want to rewatch that? I don't think so.
Well, enough time hasn't gone by yet.
Time hasn't gone by yet, but on my second viewing at the theater, that's when I went, boy, we're lacking story here.
That's interesting. Because I looked at it as, we can get into spoilers for this movie. If people haven't seen this movie yet, they don't want to at this point.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll just get into spoilers for the movie. So, the film picks up, 10, 11, 12 years after the events of the original Avatar. And there's a 3 or 4 minute exposition voiceover dump about, hey, here we are. This is, the sky people have left. We're here. We kept a few people around. We have kids now. We've got an adopted daughter from Sigourney Weaver's Avatar mysteriously gave birth.
Which I'm sure that'll resolve itself.
Yeah. You've got the kid spider who couldn't go through cryo because he was a baby and all that stuff, and I thought that was it. That was interesting. Everything. So life's good. On Avatar.
Everything.
On Pandora, life is good.
It's great.
Okay, the kids are good. I love that scene where they do like the family photo. I thought that was, and the way their eyes are like polarized. I'm like, that's not even something that happens anymore in phone. Like our phones don't even do that when we take those pictures. But and so you have Jake and Neytiri are they're on their date night. Flying around on their dragons, having a good time. The sky people return. Now they don't want the unobtainium, which is never even mentioned by name in this movie.
Probably because of, what was the other movie that had unobtainium in it?
Avatar.
God, what was it? They went to the center of the earth. I don't
know.
The Core.
The Core.
The Core.
Oh, that movie's horrible. That was, okay, so I just put that on about a year ago. I was like, I got to see what everyone's
Stanley
talking
Tucci
about. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. So that movie opens up with them landing a space shuttle in the LA River. And I'm like, what are we even doing? Like, this is so utterly ridiculous.
The first iteration of, actually, that may have come out after. When I have to check.
Oh, I think The Core is like 2003.
Is it?
Yeah, it was right in that period of we're still on the coattails of Independence Day.
Yes.
So we're still making our disaster porn movies. They don't
mention that.
They don't mention unobtainium. Now the Sky people are back. The RDA company is back to colonize Pandora because Earth is dying.
Yep. Earth's got a expiration date.
It's got an expiration date. So we're doing this. And then we find out that Miles Kittredge, the Stephen Lang, okay? They managed. I was
He's
like,
back.
How are they bringing him back? And then they bring him back as an avatar. They uploaded his conscience. I thought that was all really cool.
I did not appreciate that.
I love they brought all his grunts back, and they're all so he's got a bone to pick with Sully. So like the first act of the movie is, Kittredge going after Sully. By the way, his kids do get kidnapped multiple times in this movie.
Many times.
Even one point, one of them goes like, again, I'm strapped to this thing again.
Literally, I'm back to Jack handcuffed in the Titanic.
Exactly. So, oh yeah, I believe that was your text to me.
Yeah.
I just finished Titanic 2.
That was it. Because, spoiler alert, the last half of this movie is them getting off of a sinking ship.
That's right.
Which, really?
It's so, well, he had so much fun doing that one. He had no choice.
Yeah, lean on what you know. But
listen, right? A writer writes what they know. So you've got Jake. Him and his Na'vi people are they're doing guerrilla attacks on the RDA company, the train derailment, and all this
and
stuff.
That's what I wanted to keep seeing.
Yeah,
that's what I was interested in. Where this movie was supposed to go was. All right, we all knew the Sky people would be back.
Yes.
If the Na'vi didn't realize the Sky people would be back, then shame on them. You should have been planning on that because one of you was human and should know what humans are going to do. They're not going to give up. They're going to regroup and come back.
And they come back in force.
You don't need to see a regular movie to know that it's coming.
So after a first act that sees Jake and Neytiri's kids get captured by the bad blue people, Jake convinces Neytiri that it's time, for the sake of their tribe, for the sake of the forest people, if you will, they need to leave. And this is an hour into the movie before we even get to the way of water.
Yes,
and then it's like first act's over. We're going to get on our banshees and fly away, and then we're going to go discover the new people.
And that took so long. This is where I feel like I'm complaining for no reason, because they meet the water people. I forget whatever tribe they are. What's going to happen. It's going to be no, if you come here, then they're going to come after us. And no, this is not who we are. And then you got the kids fighting. You got the tension between the families.
Yeah.
But it's visually stunning.
Yeah,
I'm watching it just going, there's no story here whatsoever. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. I predicted the end as soon as I saw it. I'm like, this is how it's going to end.
Interesting.
And I still loved watching it.
Yeah.
It's an experience that I think is going to, once it comes out on home video, or I can't even call it home video anymore, streaming, it's going to be lost. And I think the numbers are going to show that.
It will be, I hate to say it, it will be, hey, remember when that movie came out?
Yeah.
Oh, we can watch it right now, but why? I've been beating the drum of if you're not going to see this movie in IMAX 3D, don't bother seeing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to discourage people from seeing what I think is a really good movie. I was really into the story. I was into all of it.
Well, and I saw it with my 12-year-old and my 9-year-old.
What were their reactions?
So both of them had never seen a 3D movie. Because when was the last time a 3D movie came out?
Force Awakens, that was 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
But that wasn't a 3D movie. They had 3D versions of that movie.
But a movie specifically made for 3D. It must have been.
Spy Kids? Shark Boy versus Lava Girl? One of the Final Destination movies was in 3D.
Yes, it was.
Yes. The Final Destination Part 4, 3D. And there was 3 more after that.
Yeah, there's at least 5 more coming.
I think a couple of the Saw movies were in 3D.
Were they?
Oh, one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies was in 3D. None of those, by the way, I saw in 3D.
Yeah, or my 5-year-old kids saw. So they loved it.
Okay.
My daughter, she really had not seen the original in quite a while. My son had. Both of them thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's when you're immersed in that experience. You've got your glasses on. You're in your own world, in your own head. That's all that matters is what's directly in front of you. And James Cameron just delivers on it.
It cannot be understated for those listening that haven't seen the film that there is a massive difference between, for example, after Avatar came out, the 3D boom was back. Mm-hmm. Except very few movies were actually filmed with 3D cameras. In fact, in the post-Avatar world, I believe Transformers Dark of the Moon, which was the third Transformers, they used 3D cameras for that film. But it's very expensive to shoot a movie in 3D. That being said, everything was being released in 3D.
Everything.
But they were doing what's known as a post-conversion 3D, is where they take the movie and then through some computer fuckery, give it depth. But the Avatar, the original one, is filmed with IMAX 3D cameras. Cameron invents brand new cameras. He has a partnership with Sony, and he tells Sony, hey, this is what I need.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist, but this is what I need. And Sony gives him these prototypes that he uses to film the new Avatar movie. So it goes with, like I said, if you haven't seen the movie, this is not gimmicky 3D.
No, it's not.
This is 3D.
This is not like knives flying at your face and like, oh God,
But there were some interesting you say that, because so I'm sitting in the Tuesdays watching this movie, packed movie theater, the 3 times I saw it.
Yeah.
At one point, early on in the movie, when the kids are just going through the forest, those little things that float, the little white things that float, that kind of look like dandelion, a few of those were floating around. Well, a gentleman sitting 3 or 4 rows down from me got up, I'm presuming, to go use the restroom. But when he stood up, that object was still floating in front of my face.
Oh, really?
And I could see him clearly in front of that object.
That's wild.
So the object was between me, that gentleman. I mean, it was in the middle. And I was just like, how are we even doing this?
Which?
And I'm like, you son of a bitch. Like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
And then it also needs to be pointed out that this was the first, in my opinion, successful use of high frame rate.
Yes.
I've seen some other Hobbit movies in high frame rate, and they don't look good.
Yeah.
This
was, the best word I could use to describe it was just rich.
Yeah.
It filled the screen in a way that made you feel like it was just packed in there. There wasn't a pixel out of place. It was just remarkable.
It needs to be also said that Cameron was on no timetable to complete this movie.
No.
The way he works is, when it's done, it's done. I don't care how long it takes. This thing's going to be perfect. Visually perfect.
Well,
all right.
He should have spent some of those 13 years working on the story.
He wrote the original one by himself. He had writers on this one. There are story credits, okay? Story by James Cameron, Rick Jaffa, Amanda Silver, Josh Friedman, and Shane Salerno. So he had multiple people working on this. Now, when we look at the story credits,
this is where you cannot create a movie like this by committee. This is like building a church. You can't do that.
Interestingly enough, I'm looking up Josh Friedman, for example. I don't know him. That's the first time I've seen his name. But I'm going on Wikipedia here, and I'm looking at his story credits. Okay? So his story credits, now he's written a couple screenplays, but the actual story credits are 96 Chain Reaction, Keanu Reeves, Morgan Freeman. You remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What was that? The
big motorcycles chase scene.
Oh, no, the nuclear fission.
Yeah, that's the movie. Then we're going to go to 2005, War of the Worlds. Okay. 2006, he wrote the screenplay for this and gets the story credit, The Black Dahlia. Brian De Palma film. Okay.
Based on...
He's going to take a 13-year break, and he is going to come back with a story credit for 2019's Terminator Dark Fate. So that is clearly how he got on Cameron's radar. Cameron actually has a story credit on that film, in that movie. Listen, James Cameron, I love you. I've read your biography. I just got your new book. All right, I'm a fan. All right. That might be the worst Terminator movie of the whole lot.
I don't know. Genesis was pretty bad.
I think Genesis is I think Genesis is a lot funner it has a lot more fun to watch than Dark Fate.
I didn't mind Dark Fate as much. It definitely did not like Salvation.
You had Dark Fate had an elderly Terminator.
I know. I loved Arnold as
we've got
upholsterer.
We've got
was he a curtain maker?
we've got to save Sarah Connor, but first we have to go for early bird at Bob Evans. I'm waiting for my Medicare Part B card.
The Viagra arrives tomorrow. We can't leave yet.
So then he has a story credit for Avatar: The Way of Water, Avatar 3, Avatar 4, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So, and a untitled Star Trek film. So, I mean, Cameron brought some people on,
Yeah,
and then
that's not a good thing.
Well, looking at the other writer, his writing credits include so now listen to his writing credits. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. So this is. Let me see here. I'll do some editing here. This is Shane Salerno. Okay, so this is another writer on Avatar: The Way of Water, and his writing credits go back a little further. Okay, so we have a writer. He was a writer on NYPD Blue, New York Undercover.
Okay.
1997, Breakdown.
Oh.
1998, Armageddon.
Ooh. Okay.
All right. This is where things kick a little. Okay. 2004, Alien vs. Predator.
Ooh.
2007, Ghost Rider and Alien vs. Predator Requiem. 2010, 2011, he's a writer and a consultant on Hawaii Five-0. He then goes on to write Savages. That's the Oliver Stone movie.
Yeah.
That was a good movie, actually. I was pretty surprised how much. He wrote The Comey Rule, the made-for-TV Showtime about James Comey. The guy. Oh, I think it's Brendan Gleeson. I think plays Trump in that. Have you seen that?
Nuh-uh.
Oh, he's so good.
Really?
I mean,
Brendan Gleeson is Trump.
He's so good in that role. Like he nails it. He nails it. And then he's got Avatar: Way of Water writing. So I mean, he brought writers on. Maybe for you, maybe not the right writers.
So these are action writers. What you needed to bring on were people who can understand. This is now a trilogy.
Oh, at least minimum.
At a minimum, this is a continuing series where you've got to build the story from what it was to what it is eventually going to be. And they kind of did that with what was Sigourney Weaver's daughter? I forget her name in this, but Kiri. They sort of, they laid the seeds for some, future.
And by the way,
groundwork, but
easily my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was interesting because I didn't want to see how this movie was made until after I saw it.
Yeah.
So realizing that Kiri is actually Sigourney Weaver in the performance capture suits for the entire time, pretending to be like a 14-year-old.
And you can tell her voice was in that.
Oh yeah, no, they've definitely modified her voice a little bit.
Yeah,
but she was like easily my favorite character, and the space whale.
And
it was Free Willy 4.
But what I eventually assumed was at the end of Avatar that this was going to be when Sigourney Weaver's character was dying and they were trying to bring her back, that her avatar got impregnated by
the Tree of Life.
The Tree of Life. I mean, so I'm assuming that's the direction they're going to go.
Well, the kids actually think that she might have hooked up. But there's an actual, and this is an interesting question, okay? Because they're literally, the kids bring up, who's your
daddy?
Who's your daddy? And all of a sudden there's this question of when the humans are in their avatars, are they getting a little freaky?
Bang, bang?
Yeah. Are they testing out these suits to their full capacity?
Right.
So I like the fact that movie that question is kind of open ended, and I'm literally in the theater going, well, I mean, I suppose they might try to do that.
Yeah. No, what I was upset at is this was 13 years later, and you're going to put a visually stunning masterpiece on the screen, and you spend all this time on what you're going to see and not all the time on what you're going to feel.
Right.
And I just felt like it was a major letdown, that the story itself was just so lacking. It was 30 minutes too long. Now, granted, if you had played this for another 2 hours, I would have loved to sat there and watched this. Like, he could have done this for 10 hours and I would have happily paid for it.
I never felt the runtime at all in this movie.
The only reason I felt it is because I kept going like, oh my God, they're handcuffed to the ship again. Stop getting handcuffed to the ship. Like,
Like I got all in on this thing because like the first time the kids go underwater when they're
my God, it's fantastic.
I was literally tearing up. Like I was overwhelmed by like how visually stunning that was. And again, this will not translate when somebody decides to watch this on their iPad when it comes out on Disney Plus.
Oh, not even remotely.
I'm very curious because I have a friend of mine, and she was supposed to see the movie last week, but she also got sick. Everybody's getting sick. She was actually supposed to see it today, and remind me when we're done, because she was going to see it in 2D. She was going to go with her parents. It was kind of like a Christmas thing, and I guess her parents are a little bit older and didn't think they could handle the 3D, and I'm just like begging her.
Yeah.
I'll buy the tickets for you and your family. You've got to see this in IMAX 3D, but I'm going to reach out to her and see if she actually saw the movie.
Well, the best explanation I gave someone, they're like, because I was trying to explain what it's like watching this. I'm like, it is like trying to explain to someone what it's like having kids.
Oh, wow.
Like you can say, oh, I've got, you got to take care of them. You got to feed them. You got to do all this stuff. But until you have kids and you understand exactly what it's like, that's what this is. Until you see this in the proper format, you are not prepared to understand what James Cameron did here.
Yeah, no. So my friend Eamon, who actually, he texted me last night. He had texted me a picture inside. This is over in Dublin, Ireland. He texted me a picture inside the IMAX theater, and what I respect the hell out of him. I mean, I respect the hell out of him because he is very blunt and very honest. When he doesn't like something, he's not afraid, and he's not afraid to call me out on it.
Yeah.
So he texted me late last night. Eamon, I apologize for not texting, but he just texted. He goes, "That movie was absolutely phenomenal. I could see Zoe Saldana killing motherfuckers left and right.
Oh, yeah.
I could watch that all day long."
Yeah.
That's one thing. She's relegated to not even a supporting character. She's not in this movie very much.
Very little. And the way that Sully deals with his children too. I mean, that was another story issue that I had, is he's got to walk this line between leader of the resistance and father to, the kids who are going to take over the resistance. And it's difficult. And I don't think they navigated that very well here. All you story writers.
I am, I'm still giving this movie the strongest of recommendations.
Oh, I would absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would say it is a 10 out of 10 for seeing it in theaters. If you're going to watch this at home, it's a 6.5 out of 10 for me.
I am okay with a simple story premise. Some of the best movies ever made kind of have a simple story premise. Jurassic Park is about what happens when you create dinosaurs for an amusement park and shit goes wrong. Pretty simple. Jaws, pretty simple storyline. All right. Even the first Star Wars, A Hero's Journey, pretty simple. So I'm okay with this movie having a relative, I think, I disagree. I mean, obviously we disagree a little bit on this one, but I think this movie has a pretty compelling story. And I think it sets up a third movie with a lot of really, I can't wait to see how this plays out.
Yeah.
And the thing about Avatar 3, which on paper should come out in December of 2024. I mean, it's done. They filmed both of these movies at the same time. But I'm actually sitting there going, I really can't wait to see where this goes. I don't know where this story is going to go. I have no idea. And I also know I'm going to see something I've never seen before.
That's really what it comes down to.
In a third movie.
And I kept asking myself as I was watching it. Actually, it took the second time watching it, just going, does what's on screen right now move the plot forward? And most of the time it didn't. And I just kept going, it is beautiful. It's stunning. I love what I'm seeing, but you could cut an hour off of that.
I don't know where you cut an hour off, but that's okay. Listen, that's just me.
You could cut an hour. I mean, you could add, like I was saying, you could add 6 hours, and I would still sit there and pay for it.
This movie is, and there is. Let's make no mistake about it. The Rotten Tomatoes on this is what, in the 70s?
So it's 77 with the critics right now, and 92 with the audience score.
Yeah. I mean, so this thing is getting mixed. For the critics, it's getting mixed reviews. There are some, online, movie reviewers on YouTube that I follow pretty faithfully and appreciate their opinions on film. And most of them were super positive about this movie for the same reason that you and I are, because for the visual aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I remember one reviewer in particular, I was like, oh, I know he's going to love this film. He's going to love it. And he was just like, this was a slog to get through. It was pointless. It was just as pointless as the first one. And I'm just going, ooh. Wow. So here's a fun thing, okay? So after I text you that I left speechless, I've never had an experience like that in the movie theater, I promptly went home and fired up the original Avatar. Mm-hmm. Holy shit. Has the technology come a long way? Because that movie looks rudimentary.
It looks like the Croods.
Yeah. I mean, it's shocking.
Yeah.
So here's what I think. Okay, I suspect that Cameron might George Lucas the original Avatar.
No. Okay. Don't you dare.
I suspect that there will be a special theatrical version of this film in a couple of years to coincide with the release of the third film that will be high frame rate. Because it wasn't high frame rate.
Well, let me ask you this. Has he done that before? Like, he hasn't gone back into that on T2 or
I mean,
Aliens?
There was a Terminator 3D. Remember? Yeah. T2 3D came out like 4 or 5 years ago. It was a post-converted thing. I went and saw it in the theater. It was awful to watch. I don't think he had anything to do with it because he didn't because he didn't have the rights to the movie.
Yeah.
But
if he hasn't gone back and redone his previous ones, then fingers crossed he's not going to do that now.
I can see a scenario in which the second Avatar looks so amazing. Clearly, the third one's going to look amazing. That the first one is a noticeable step down, which is obvious because of the technology.
Now, 14 years ago?
But there's got to be a way that he can go in there and at least high frame rate the thing. And computers can do some amazing things.
Here's the problem, though, and this is what happens when these creative geniuses, they can go in and with the best of intentions, we'll up the frame rate. Then they'll go, well, you know what? We need a new director's cut based on the second one. Oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and, we could just go ahead and update this. Just leave it alone. Don't touch it.
There is a 3-hour version of Avatar. There is a director's cut of Avatar. I've seen it.
Really?
It opens up with, because it comes in at like 2 hours and 58 minutes long. So it's like 20 minutes longer than the original. And a lot of it is the beginning of the movie. You see Sully at a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's balancing a shot glass on his head on his wheelchair, kind of going back and forth. And he picks a fight with somebody who's been abusing a girl. And, so there is a different version of that movie floating around.
So that's the one I've got. It's the extended collector's edition.
Yes. Yep. That's it. So I imagine we'll probably get that. We'll at least get that for Avatar 2. Yeah. So, okay. Before we wrap this up, I just want to say that I don't want to say that it was worth the wait because there wasn't a lot of anticipation for me. And going into the film, I had set myself up to be not disappointed, but if this is going to be a chore like I found the first one to be to get through the first time, I said, half an hour longer, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be disappointed, but I was not. It got me. The movie got me.
Yeah.
It truly did.
No, and it did for me too. I mean, I think regardless of where this ends up for me after the, third and fourth and fifth and 12th one comes out, I will never forget the experience of watching this movie.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is going to be cemented in my brain for as long as I live.
I know we didn't get too much into the plot of the film, but I feel like on the next episode that we're doing, which is our end of the year, I'm sure this film will come up at some point in the discussion. But there was, like I said, and we got into a little bit of spoilers of this movie, but it's almost too broad. We need a couple hours to break the movie down. So I guess our thoughts on the movie are, we both agree wholeheartedly that this is one of the most visually stunning films ever made.
Correct.
As long as you see it the way it was meant to be seen.
Yes, absolutely. Pay the extra money.
Yeah.
See it in IMAX 3D.
And I will say that 2022, there were now 2 movies that came out in 2022 that were some of the best experiences I've had in movie theaters in more than 10 years. And that obviously the other one was Top Gun Maverick.
Okay, I was like you're going to say nope.
That movie's going to come up in our end of the year show.
I was worried. All right.
Okay, it's gonna come up in that one. Yeah. Okay. So I love the movie. I bought in 100%. I was fine with the story elements of it. I'm curious to see how this film
It's got
leads
2
off.
thumbs up for me.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely the highest recommendation possible to see this film.
Yes.
So, all right, good
Avatar
first
2.
discussion.
Do this again on Avatar 3.
We will, yeah. 2 years from now, we'll come back. We'll come back. Hopefully,
Bookmark that.
what could possibly go wrong in this world we live in?
I'm sure we'll be fine by then.
So, all right, before we go, just a quick friendly reminder that Jason and I do have a 10-episode miniseries that we're working on that's available on our Patreon. 101 movies from the 90s that you need to watch. We've posted 2 episodes of this recording. The third one will be out in a couple days from this recording. We're getting ready to do part 4 later on today. It's been a lot of fun. So, and it helps out the show. It helps us get this quality content out to you on a more frequent basis. So, all right, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Dana Buckler Show. On Instagram at The Dana Buckler. Also on Instagram at The Dana Buckler Show. You can email us, thedanabucklershow@gmail.com. And do you give out your Twitter handle at all, or
I couldn't even tell you what it is. Like, if you
and
need
Jason's on Twitter.
If you need to find me
Yeah.
complaining about Cox Cable or the lines at Lowe's, find me.
I love it. All right, so Jason, thank you. Good conversation.
Yes,
All
thanks.
right, we both liked Avatar, and we'll leave it at that.
There you go.
All right, thanks everybody.